Hello, my name is Sue Lewis and I'm going to take you through this presentation, which is about how you can make the most of the Career Pilot reporting zone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how the reporting zone works and how you can access all the reports and data that is generated. I'm going to talk to you about how you can now use your reporting zone login to get access to the new advisor zone members area, which has got lots of materials. And then I will mention the new pathway planner, which you could choose to purchase as an add-on to your Career Pilot site, but that will create even more data. So just to explain an overview, you might know these things already. We have 4 zones on Career Pilot: the student, the reporting, the advisor, and the parent zone. We've also now got a new tool, which is a model and triage tool, so you can allocate guidance according to 3 different levels of need. And you could choose to purchase this and add it on. And if you do that, there'll be in the student zone, in the career tools, there will be a link to the pathway planner. In the reports, you'll gather all the data, and in the advisor zone, there'll be all the sort of lesson plans and materials you can use. So just to explain a little bit about how Career Pilot is funded. Until recently, in this geographical area, Career Pilot was free to use, so schools and colleges in that area could get access to all 4 zones of Career Pilot. Now, just recently, there's been some changes in this geographical area, which is Hampshire, Dorset and the Isle of Wight, because subscriptions there were paid by the Southern Universities Network, and now they're unable to carry on because they've had a cut in funding. So in that area, schools have to now pay their own funding for 2021-22. However, if you've already been getting funding through the Sun and you have any remaining budget, I understand you can use that for the subscriptions for 2021-22. So the reason it's free is because it's supported by 14 universities and 5 UniConnect projects. They pay subscriptions. So in that green area, it is free to access all 4 zones. Whatever you are, whether you're external to our area or you're in our area, if you want the Career Pilot Pathway Planner, you have to pay to add it on to your Career Pilot site. If you're out of our area, then you pay for Career Pilot, and then you could choose whether you add on the Pathway Planner. So just to give you a bit of a roundup of some of the key things to do with Career Pilot, it's all about supporting schools and developing a whole school approach to delivering careers. So there's activities for every age group, which are progressive and are all about trying to help students become managers of their own careers. And each of these activities tie in with anything they might have to be deciding as well. So if you're a careers leader, there's lots of things in Career Path that are really going to help you make your job easier. We've got what we call our 3-stage process, which we teach to students so they can apply this every time they have to make a career decision in their life. We've got our activities, as I say, for every year group, and to support them, we've got lots of delivery materials, including 5-week PSHE programs for every year group with all the resources, etc. So if you're a careers leader, you'll be trying to engage a lot of other people in supporting careers, like tutors might be delivering or supporting their tutees, parents, subject teachers, and then obviously your guidance advisor is actually kind of wrapping all this together. So we've got resources to support all the people that need to be engaged with careers. The Pathway Planner, if you decide to have that, comes in year 11 and 12. So in terms of the whole school approach, as I said, we've got activities for every age group, so you can get the students to do the 5 or 6 activities we suggest for year 9, for example. But you could then deliver a session. They're better if they're wrapped around a whole session. So we have lesson plans with presentations based on delivering about 50-minute sessions for every year group. A lot of those are available as video recorded sessions. We've got slightly different ones for the Pathway Planner in year 11 and 12. And then, as I mentioned, resources that wrap around this, like 5-week PSHE programs, all the resources. The little pink ones there, 20-minute activities you could do in tutor time. Got activities for subject teachers, 23 for Key Stage 4, 23 for Key Stage 5, and they all tie in with aspect of the curriculum a teacher's already delivering, and just shows them how they can relate it more to careers. Then we've got our hot job posters, and we've just released a new pack which relate to NHS jobs. So we've got lots of things that wrap around careers to make this a whole school approach and embed careers in all sorts of areas of the school environment. So this is Career Palette. It's a one-stop careers website. This is free access across the UK, but if you decide to subscribe or you're already able to access the other parts of the site, then you can get your students to register and sign in here, and then they get access to the career tools. And when they build their report, which they do as they personalise their things they're interested in as they use the site, that creates data in your reporting zone. Just to show you around the site quickly, if you're not familiar with it, you can access everything from careerpalette.org.uk. So students could sign in when I showed you, but that's where staff would sign in as well. You can access the advisor zone and the parent zone. These are our popular tools like job profiles, course, apprenticeship search, etc. Our three-stage process I mentioned that we try to teach students. A lot of our resources are structured under these three stages, but we also have information on pathways, and that might be a place that some students want to start. So the three-stage process, just to give you a quick overview. So the first stage is about helping them understand about themselves. So there's quizzes to get them started, activities, as I mentioned, to fit with age and stage. Start with a subject, see what it might lead, draw a skills map, plan their qualifications on a ladder. Then explore your options. They could do that in a range of ways, by age or by jobs or by apprenticeship vacancies. They can look at a whole lot of information. Whenever they see a cross, they do need to be taught to do this. That means they can add whatever they're interested in into their career tools. So that's an important bit of learning for the students. So it works like this, really. You can click on something they like a job, and then it'll be added to their job sectors, but also added to the main report. And they can always get rid of it if they've changed their mind. So the report is access for the students here. It can be quite detailed by the time they've done these activities. Brilliant if you're an advisor. I mean, I like to go in a few nights before I see the students and have a good look at what they're saying already, and then that just starts the interview quite nicely. So that report moves up annually with students. You can see that when you have if you've done a session with a student, you can write a report which is visible to them here, and you can have multiple conversations you've had with students. It could be a tutor, could be a guidance advisor. That's visible to the student there. So if you do want access to the reporting zone, if you haven't got that already, you need to complete a data sharing agreement. And then we'll send you a password to whom we call the password keeper. Just to be clear, the students have to self-register, so they do that themselves straight onto the site. And as part of that, they put themselves in your school and in your year group. But as the keeper, you can then set them up into other groups. So there's a year group, you can put them into tutor groups, pupil premium groups. They can be in multiple groups. And the keeper can also set up staff so they can see the groups that you want them to look at, like tutors could see a specific tutor group, for example. When the staff have got access, they get to view any reports that are associated with the groups they've been allowed to see. And they can also add any comments as well, like that I showed you the advisor report as well. So one new thing, when you get in, this is what you'll see now, where you can get into the reporting zone and you'll be able to access the Career Palette student site, and you can do the career tools yourself if you want to try them out. But also, a new thing we just launched this year is the Members Advisor Zone, which you get access to lots of different materials. When you want to get back, just under your name, there's a little drop down. You click on Admin, and then you're back in. So you can toggle between both the sites with that one password that you've got. And as I said, you could do the student activities just to try them out. So this is a reporting zone. So the orange bit is all about your users. You can see the students, how many have registered by group. You can also set up administrators, which are teachers, tutors, and other high-level school admins like yourself if you end up being the password keeper. You can also see reports as well. So we're going to talk about the orange bit to start with, where you can view and add staff. You can view or amend students, or you could put users into groups, like tutor groups or other groups as well. So this is in the users section. So this is where you can see all your students. So you can't register them, but once they put themselves in, they will appear against your school. And if you want to find a specific student, you can just put their name in the search criteria there. Then there are various actions you could perform against the individual. So here you're going to see their student record. This is useful, I find, because if they've forgotten their email, it's always worth checking whether their email is an appropriate one, it's going to work, because they might be trying to do a forgotten password. But if they didn't write their email address in properly at the first time, then obviously that's not going to be able to find them again. So you can amend their email address, and you can send them a new password from here to that email address. You can also manage students as well. So if they're leaving you, you could actually say they've gone out of your school. So the individual record would show you all this. And you can see too in the black bit here, you can see all the reports associated with that student as well. There's lots of different ways to get to the reports. For the Pathway Planner, there is a way to indicate whether your students have additional needs. So that shows up on the Pathway Planner results, so you can actually target them in a specific way. That's only available for the Pathway Planner. So I'm going to show you now administrators. So you can set up staff. We can't set up students, we can set up staff. So if you go to administrators and click on new user, then very simply put in their name, first name, last name, email address, and then you allocate them a role. So you've got two choices. You can give them school admin, and there's like high level access, and they're going to be able to see and do everything. Or you can just give them a teacher access and then assign them to the groups that you want to give them access to. Okay, so it's really important you assign them to the groups, otherwise you've got to log in, but they can't see anything. If you are using Pathway Planner, there's another option here where you can create somebody in the career guidance role, and they have particular responsibilities within the Pathway Planner, like making bookings for guidance and a few other things too. And again, they do need to be assigned to the groups they're going to be able to view. So I'm going to show you now how you can set up additional groups. If you remember, I said that they already get put into a year group. So in manage groups, what I can see here is I've got 115 in year 11, 38 in year 10. So what I can do from here is I can look at a group, I can see who's in that group, and I can see what teachers have assigned to that group as well. I can also add more people to the group or get rid of people, so I could take out the teachers that I don't want to be associated with this particular group. You can't take students out of a year group because that's the way they're registered. But what you can do is set up new groups and subdivide the year groups in all sorts of ways. So the way you do that is you say new group, call your group something. You can, if it's going to be a year 11 group, I can filter and it'll show me all the year 11 students. You can select all if you want to create the whole year 11 group, but there's not much reason to do that. But if you just want to then select the students you want to put in this specific tutor group. You can also access information about this webinar tonight through our user group tile in the advisor zone, just so you know that everything I'm talking about is going to be user guide. So I'm going to go on now to talk about the other part of the reporting zone. So this is where you can see reports, and you can see them by school group or by individual. So I'll just show you how that works. So for example, in the student area, the students might be looking at jobs, might drill down to a sector, find out a bit more about that sector, and they might like this idea of doing something in engineering design. So what they can do is click to add this to their career tools. So they can say whether they're just exploring or they're definitely interested in this, because it's very useful to know how serious they are about it. They can also go down to the level of a job profile, and as soon as they click on a profile, they'll be added to their career tools. Then in report by group, in the reporting zone, you can access that from the turquoisey bit or through the options on the left-hand side. What I could do is say which group I want to look at. It could be one of the groups I've created myself or a year group, and I get some options about the reports I can see against that group. I've just made them a little bit bigger here. So if you wanted to look at the job sectors your students are interested in, you could look by year 11 and you could see what they were interested in, how definite they were about those things. That's called the job sector report. You could download this data. Here's an example of one I downloaded and I color-coded it so that I could think about the encounters I wanted to set up for my students based on what they were interested in. There's also something called tasks completed, and that's quite useful if you're setting homework, whether they're going to do something on Career Palette or just doing a session, you've got particular things you want them to do, then you can look at tasks completed for that group, and you'll see what they've done. You can see their full report from here as well. You can see things like if an advisor has been meeting with students, writing their reports onto Career Pilot, then you can look at a particular group and see all the last advisor comments written for that group. So that might be useful to share with tutors, for example. We have just put on a new tool as well where you can look at all the latest action points that were set for the individual students in that group. There are other things too you can view by group, so you can look at if they've used our qualification ladder and they've tagged the things they're interested in. So that just means they've said, they've clicked on one of these items which say, I've done it, I'm doing it, I'm considering it for the future. Then that will be saved as part of a report. In the provider search, through the list view and specifically, they can choose providers they're interested in and say whether they are doing this, considering this, or applied. And all that information will be shown through the reports in the reporting zone. There's one other thing that shows as a group report. It's called My Next Steps, and it's trying to find out what progression plans the students have got. Are they going to go from are they going to do level 3? Are they going to move on to level 4 and above? And what would they see as the benefits of those things and what might put them off? So it's just quite useful for finding out what the barriers might be for certain students. So that report looks like this. That's called the Next Steps quiz report. I took off some data from this across different year groups to just find out what the common barriers were. So you can use it in all sorts of ways. So just to remind you, all these I've mentioned are visible as group reports, but there are some things that are just visible as individual reports because the skills map in particular is personalised to the individual students. I'm just going to show you that quickly. So individuals, you can just pick them up here, find the student you want to look at, and then you've got a few options. One is you can see their previous reports. So if they've been using CareerPath for some years, their reports would be saved every August, so you can see what they've done previously. You could download that full report, especially when you've just written advisor comments on it or whatever. You can send it to families or send it to the students, so they're logging on again. But the one I use mainly here is this view full report, which I'm going to show you, and this is where you can add comments as well. So before I do that, I'm just going to show you one other things that come up as an individual report, which is a skills profile. So this is a tool to find out what skills the students have already got, so they get asked some questions about what they've done, and for everything they tick on, they get told what skills that helped them develop. Then they get a skills profile, which has got all the skills on that have been generated through the quiz responses. So they get examples of things they've done, like I went to Rolls-Royce, you can see there, and it will show them more skills they've identified as developing through that particular activity. So the idea is they keep adding their own activities. So if they do any sort of encounters or work experience, they can put that in, or babysitting, whatever it might be. And they can think what skills it gave them, and then those will be added in here. And when they come to apply, they can look at all these examples, think about what they're applying for, what they most need to flag up, which skills, and then they can get all their examples to help them write that application or prepare for interviews. They can also compare their skills to a job, so they can put in the name of a job, see what skills are required, and see their own skills alongside that, so they can start to match themselves up. So if you want to find an individual, you go into individual reports by individual, and the skills profiles here and the other ones that I showed you will be accessible here as well. If you want to add actions and comments, then that top one is where you're going to do this. This is where you're going to see that full report, all the things they've done in the career tools. And now you could add your own report or conversation, it doesn't have to be a full report. And you can also create action points agreed with the students. You can also put internal links to all the content of Career Pilot. So it's here, the internal link, just highlight the bit of text you want to attach to that. Then you see the contents of Career Pilot, just click on the links. So you want them to look at apprenticeships, for example, then that'll be added in. You can also do external links. So you find the link and pop it in here. And again, just make sure you highlight the text where you want that link to appear. So you could do internal and external links. So your report ends up being quite a dynamic report with lots of interaction. Just a few things about end of year housekeeping. It's really good if you know the students are moving on, particularly year 11, before they leave, it's worth telling them to change their email address to their personal email address so they can access their Career Pilot account into the future. They had their account until they're 21. So the way they do that, they just go to Career Pilot and they go to their account, and then they can edit their details. They can put in their provider if they know where they're going, but they can certainly change their email address to a personal one, because obviously the school email address isn't going to work for them when they've left school. If you want to move students out of your school, then you go to their individual record in users and groups, or that orange section I showed you earlier. Find the student, open their record, and then under manage students school details, you can say they've left your school. If you know where they're going, you can actually change it to that school. There'll be a drop down of all the schools who've got access to Career Pilot. And do tell the students you're doing that, obviously. So just a summary of some of the reports and why you might use them. If you're trying to set work for students, then you can look at the tasks completed report, which will tell you if you've done those things. If you plan any sort of counter, you could look at what job sectors your students might be interested in. And as an individual report, you might want to look at their skills profile and make sure they add their activities through encounters to the skills profile. If you want to show evidence of job exploration, then obviously the job sector report can be really good for that. And there's other things there inside too. If you want to provide a summary information to tutors about the results of guidance the students might have, then you could pull off a group report showing the advisor's comments, and there's also one about the latest action points. In terms of meeting individual needs, which is Gatsby 3, then the full report shows evidence of you giving students an opportunity to find out what they're interested in, and that report is available to them, which is important for Gatsby 3, but also for other people who might be supporting them. Career Pilot is a great tool for preparing students for guidance, because they get to explore all the choices and think about themselves, and that really helps the guidance advisor to find out a bit more about the students before they meet them. Also, then they can record their report onto Career Pilot, so it's visible to all those who have access to the student's account. So it embeds guidance into the whole school environment. So I'm just going to show you now how you log in for the reporting zone will also give you access to the members advisor zone. Now, anybody, if you set up a staff login in your school, that staff member will automatically have access to the members area as well. So it just looks like our old advisor zone, but some things are restricted access now. So if you click on some of these things, will be free access, but some things you'll only be able to access if you signed in to the reporting zone. As soon as you sign in, everything becomes available. So we have got some new things on there. We've got the new pathway plan I'm going to mention a bit more about, but there is a whole tile about that. So just going to show you a few things. So some of the resources specifically for the pathway planner are now in the advisor zone, but in this protected area. We've also got the PSHE programs for every year group, and we've got a new pack of hot jobs related to the NHS, and these have also got 20-minute activities that could be done in tutor time that specifically enable students to learn more about that job. So we've got suggested activities. There's also a booklet about embedding Gatsby and showing how you can do this at a strategic level for each benchmark. There's 20-minute quick careers, we're calling them, and these are just quick things, 2 20-minute sessions for every year group, specifically for this year, where careers sessions have been quite difficult for schools to arrange. So these are based on just being able to do 2 20-minute sessions, which might be the best you can do this academic year. There's also career guides. We've got one on law, veterinary and dentistry, which is about doing medicine. So this will be the latest information on the pathways and the labour market information into these particular areas. Okay, so quite quickly I'm going to show you the pathway planner. So this is a model we developed through a bid to the Careers and Enterprise Company, which we piloted in 6 schools and is now available for rollout to other schools and colleges. So this is our model. So it's all about preparing students for guidance, finding out their guidance needs, and then meeting those needs at 3 different levels. So it starts with the 1-hour structured session, all about their options, and we've designed those sessions for schools to use if they wish to. So in that session, they're going to find out all their options and they're going to explore them on Career Pilot. And right at the end of the session, it's going to take about 10 minutes, they're going to complete the pathway planner. And this is going to ask them which of the options they're interested in. And then they get given a red, amber, green score based on the answers they give to particular questions about their pathways they're interested in. And this is like, how ready am I for my pathway score? And that data is then available for the careers advisor or the careers leader to look at, so you can allocate guidance according to need. Then about 4 weeks after guidance, the tutors follow up by asking 3 questions. And wrapped around this is at least 1 lunchtime a week of drop-in, and that is a mop-up for all the students who, after the first guidance session, still feel they need support, or the tutors feel they need to drop back in and have a bit more information. So that's called the Career Pathway Planner. We run a whole series of webinars about that, so today is just a very quick way through. If you want to find out more, I'll tell you about the webinars. So once it's switched on for your school, students can see the Pathway Planner. There's 2 versions, a pre and a post-16 version. So this is the pre-16 version, showing them the pathways they can choose. And they'll be doing that as part of this session where we've talked about them. And there will be a whole build-up of activities building up to this pathway planner session, which is about their options. They can say what they're definitely considering not doing, start a guidance quiz for the things they're definitely not considering, and we'll ask them then how ready they are for their pathway. Have they done these things? Do they know these things? They get a red, amber, green score showing how ready they are, and everybody's going to get guidance, which obviously gets to be 8. But then from the other side of the system, you have this additional bit of your reporting zone called the Pathway Planner. And this is where you can see all the results. So you can see what pathways your students are interested in, and you can allocate guidance according to need, red, amber, green. And there's lots of actions you can perform against the students. Some just booking, looking at the timeline of where they are now, looking at their answers. But you can also track their progression decisions as well through various reports. Booking guidance is quite straightforward. You can say what sort of level of guidance you're booking for them. For our pilot, these are the minutes we use for these different levels of guidance, but schools flex that a little bit. Students have a timeline, so it shows them where they were when they did the pathway planner on a particular day. And then it'll show all your guidance interventions. And at the end of guidance, you just get them to edit their responses, because you're hoping that as a result of your interventions, they are in the sort of green, amber category for the things they want to progress on to. So if you want any training, we've got lots of training, all free access, which you can click on this tile in the advisor zone, and then you'll see what we offer. So if you have any questions about the reporting zone, or you want to get a data sharing agreement, or you want to find out more about the Pathway Planner, you could look on our advisor zone, but you can also ask a question. We have a helpline that's available from 9 till 3 every day in term time, careerpilot@bath.ac.uk, and there's the telephone number there. So thank you so much for coming, for listening to this webinar, and please do get in touch with the helpline if you've got any further queries.